Demo number 2 is very interesting because it's an aspect-based sentiment analysis. And here, what we are trying to do is we are trying to look at not only to predict the sentiment, but we are also trying to predict the aspect. So we are trying to do two things here. We are trying to predict the sentiment and also the aspect. The aspect and also the corresponding sentiment behind that aspect. Okay. So what am I trying to say? Let me take it up with all of you. Let's say for an example. So what I've done is I've taken it to Amazon and let me just randomly look up a phone here. So I'm just looking up S25 Ultra as an example. And if I quickly take you to this phone, for all these mobile phones, you will see there's a review section. So a lot of customers will buy and they will give go to the review section. There's something very interesting, right? So what Amazon will do is they're doing two things. One, they are actually trying to give customers are trying to give an overall review, and customers are also writing comments, right? So when you go and do a review on Amazon, you have to write a text and then you will give a 5-star or a 4-star, whatever. Now the interesting part is if you look at this person Nihir Shah, okay, what is Nihir Shah saying? What is Nihir Shah saying? Let's see. Okay, maybe Nihir's. Let me look at negative reviews. Maybe that will be better to see. Like let's see. So we have a person named Lakshmi. So Lakshmi is saying, I'm writing this review after 3 months of usage. In my 3 months, my device power button is not working properly. Okay, so what are the aspects that Lakshmi is talking about? So Lakshmi is talking about the power button, some kind of hardware issue. While using, I'm not feeding it like Samsung Galaxy 25. It is like a first copy mobile. I think in India, Samsung is manufacturing cheap mobile for Indian customers. Okay, well, I don't think there's much we can take. So anyways, so what is coming out of this? Two things. One is from the review, we are trying to find out what is the aspect the customer is talking about. So the customer is talking about the build quality or the hardware. Maybe there are two aspects the customer is talking about. One is the hardware. Second is the build quality. The build quality. Because somewhere they say, cheap mobiles, whatever, build quality. So you identify what are the aspects the customer is talking about. That is the first part. And the second part is for every aspect, what is the sentiment? I think this customer is negative all through. Okay. The customer is negative all through. Lakshmi would have been happier if the same phone was given in 10,000 rupees. No. Anyways, if you're paying so high for a phone, then you want it to be good quality. So now let's look at one more. Let's look at one more example. Let's look at one more example. I think something very good about the phone. Maybe he was paid by Samsung, right? There are a lot of these sponsored reviews, right? Anyways, so Nisha, right? So Nihir Shah has written that, okay, design and display. Okay, I think he's very explicit here. So we can take a slightly more generic example. Look at this one. Look at Kushagra. Kushagra is saying the design, look and feel, AI functionality is top notch. So in this review, what are the different aspects that Kushagra is talking about? So Kushagra is talking about the build quality, the battery, the display, and the software. Because multitasking and AI is part of software. So the aspects that Kushagra is talking about is hardware, software, battery, and display. Straightforward. Actually, he's talking about everything. Okay, so maybe what comes out of this is the hardware or the build quality. So Kushagra is saying the build quality. So from the review, you identify the aspect is build quality, and the build quality is 5-star. And he says pretty good too. So he's not that happy. Let's say S Pen support. S Pen is one of the other aspect, and he's kind of like, let's say, 4-star. Okay, gaming experience. What is the other aspect that Kushagra has talked about? So Kushagra is talking about gaming experience. They say that is 4-star, something like that. So you get the idea what I mean by aspect-based sentiment analysis. So here, based on a review, first step is you try to identify what are the topics or what are the aspects that are being talked about. What are the different things that are being talked about with respect to the review? And then for each and every aspect, what is the sentiment for that particular aspect? Okay, so it's a very powerful, way of evaluating reviews, not just giving a total sentiment score, but looking at every aspect and aligning the sentiment scores. And the other exciting part is Amazon is already using it. And they would have gone through all these reviews across all the hundreds of customers, and they've reviewed it. And what Amazon has done, this is a very good use case of Gen AI. Amazon has basically gone and summarized it. So they would have taken all the reviews, but something very similar to that meeting transcript, no? So we have like what? Uh, the entire meeting lasted for like 7 hours, right? We would have easily generated upwards of 100,000 tokens, or maybe close to 10,000, 100,000 tokens, more than that. And we would have summarized all of that within, let's say, 100 words. That is what it is. So by going through all the reviews, Amazon has summarized it. That is part number one. Part number two, for every review, it would have identified what are the aspects. I told you, right? And here they have simply summarized the aspects. Can you see? These are the different aspects that they have summarized. So camera quality, battery life, performance. And now you can click on each and every aspect. And I told you for every aspect, there's a sentiment assigned. And now you can click on each and every aspect. Let's say something like camera quality. And you can see that in terms of camera quality, how many positive, how many negative. This is aspect-based sentiment analysis. Because we know that every review, which are the reviews that are talking about camera quality, and with respect to camera quality, how are those customers feeling? Not just the overall feedback, but what we want to know is specifically with respect to that category, how are they feeling? Right. So this is a very powerful way of evaluating and collecting feedback. So if you look at it historically, this was not possible. Historically, we used to give a long questionnaire, no? Like if you want to collect feedback about the product, what you will say, you will send a form to a customer and you will ask the customer to rate. Okay, like camera quality, how much rating you give, battery life, how much rating you give, performance, how much rating you give, right? But here what we are saying is you just write one text, you just write one review, and from that we will figure out how you feel about it. Right, even all these session feedbacks also, like let's say, all these sessions that we do, let's say there'll be some feedback mechanism at the end of it. So there also you will be asked, right? So here we still are sticking to the same traditional methods, right? So you will have to rate, okay, how was the delivery, how engaging was it, right? You will have to rate on different parameters, right? So let's say there'll be 5 to 10 different parameters and you have to rate as an example. But the beautiful thing is, imagine you just had to write one review. Just write one review. Don't have to go and rate on every parameter. Just write your review, and based on your review, we will identify what are the aspects that are talked about, and the model will be able to automatically find out the ratings for each of the aspects. So you just write 100-word review, and from that 100-word review, the model will identify, okay, based on the session engagement, the review is this. Based on the contents covered, the review is this. Based on the delivery style, the review is this. So that is the idea. That is the aspect-based sentiment analysis. And these are some very new things that are actually starting to happen. And you can see that the animation speed. Not many people talked about it actually. Very interesting. Only 3 customers talked about it. The only 3 customers mentioned animation speed actually. And value for money, you can see. Not many people feel is value for money. Speed, battery life, performance, and all that. AI functionality. Remember, there was a review where AI functionality was there. I'm not saying that this is perfect. Maybe Amazon also has to do some work, right? So this is not perfect. There could have been other things that they could have also included, right? Maybe S Pen and all that. That's not there. So maybe there could be more aspects. So maybe that's another thing we need to keep in mind, that this is not perfect. Amazon is also, trying out different approaches to make their model better. So just by looking at it, you will realize that this is not perfect. So they've included something like animation speed. So out of 162 customer ratings, only 3 mentioned it. So this is not very useful, right? If you look at it, this animation speed is not very useful to put it. Rather, there are other things that were more important. Like camera battery life is fine, performance is okay, but I think generally what customers also look for is, let's say, charging. I'm just giving an example. Okay, battery life is there, but there could be some other things like, let's say, functionality. Here it's a very broad thing like AI functionality. Only 4 customers talked about it, but maybe a better aspect could have been uh, something like software. General software, general software and performance and UI and all that. That mention is not there. But actually we saw a lot of reviews that talk about it. No, I think there was a lot of reviews that actually talked about this thing. See, I mean, this thing like S25 Ultra is very snappy, apps open instantly, higher refresh rate. So this is what we want to see. But somehow this aspect was not captured. So maybe this is bad development on Amazon's part. Whatever. I mean, this they will iterate and they will make it better. So maybe a better aspect here could have been Okay, something like not animation speed, because only three customers talk about it, not animation speed, but you can probably group animation speed and AI functionality into one broader aspect, which is, let's say, something like software quality. How is the UI? How is the overall UI? We are talking, I think now they have Galaxy has launched the One UI 7. How is the overall UI generally? Okay, so now moving on to the implementation. This is not very hard. You can all try this out later on, but I'll let me run this for you and show you. This is the sample example, and this time it's a JSON file that I've got here. Okay, the same kind of aspect-based sentiment analysis, but we have to give some examples, right? I told you that to build an application, we have to give some few short examples to the model. So here we are giving some few short examples also to the LLM. So we are also giving some few short examples here, and these are the few short examples that we are providing. You can see. So the sake menu should not be overlooked. So what is the aspect that is being talked about? It is sake menu, which is something to do with food, and the polarity is positive, right? Great spot, whether looking for a couple of drinks or a quiet dinner. So this is the general review that somebody has written. Okay, after maybe they went some restaurant. This is the restaurant review, it seems like. Okay, and what are the aspects that are being talked about here? Because we have to. This is the label data, right? This is the few shot example. Ultimately, in a real world scenario, we want the model to predict what are the aspects. But here we are giving the few shot examples so that we are guiding, we are training the model. So based on the review, the few short aspects are the aspects that are identified here are drinks, dinner, and spot. Maybe you can broadly call it ambience, whatever. Drinks, dinner, and spot. Okay, and this can be broadly categorized as ambience. Okay, and the polarity is positive. So identify the aspects, and for each of the aspects, the polarity is positive, positive, positive. Okay, so this is the general idea, but the approach is very similar. You can design the prompt. You can see we are writing a very detailed system message. And in the system message, we are very clearly stating that what are the different aspects that are possible. Okay, so in each review, there might be one or more of the following aspects: food, service, ambience, or anecdotes, miscellaneous. For each review, identify presenters as input, identify if there are any of the four aspects, and assign a sentiment polarity for each aspect. So we are explicitly guiding the LLM that, okay, first you do this, first you identify what are the aspects. And the review can have multiple aspects also, we know that. And once you have identified the aspects, for every aspect, you please find out what are the, uh, excuse me, for every aspect, you find out what are the sentiments with respect to that aspect. That's the way we do it. Rest is very similar. We will curate the few short prompt. And you can again see that we have used a sample of 4. If you want to change it, you can, but we have only taken one with 4 examples. This is the default one that we have taken. And this is the final few short prompt that we are getting. So there's a system message, user assistant, user assistant, user assistant, user assistant. This is done. And now we will come to prompt evaluation. Very similar to what we talked about. And we can give the gold examples, and we can get the predicted aspects and predicted sentiments. And here we can compute the accuracy. The accuracy will be lower. You can see it's coming around 65% is lower. And this is expected because it's a harder problem. I mean, just in first glance, in case you're having the question, why is the accuracy low? Because it's a little more difficult compared to a simple sentiment analysis. It's a little more difficult because, mind you, you have to get both right. You have to get the aspects right, and you have to get the sentiments right. Both the things have to be correct. Okay, both the things have to be correct. The aspects have to be identified correctly, and for those aspects, the sentiment has to be identified correctly. So both has to be correctly done. So based on a review, you need to correctly identify what are the aspects of the review, and you need to correctly identify what are the sentiments of those respective aspects. So both need to be correctly done. So you can see the example very nicely put actually. You can see the ground truth. This is the ground truth. That means this is like the gold example. Let's say there is one review, review 1, and for that review 1, the actual aspects are aspect 1, 2, 3 in that order. And for every aspect, the sentiments are positive, positive, negative in that order. This is the ground truth. This is what we expect. Right? So this is the ground truth. This is what we expect. generally. This is what is expected generally. This is what we expect. Now the thing is, now the thing is, the first set of predictions, if you see, review one, aspects are correctly identified and sentiments are also correct. This is a correct prediction. A correct prediction is one where everything is correct. The whole thing is correctly done. That is a correct prediction. The second one, if you see, is not correct. Why? Because although the aspects are identified, 1, 2, 3 in that order, this is matching, but the sentiment is not correct, not matching. So this is the incorrect prediction. This is straight away zero. Even the third one is not correct. Why? Because not all the aspects are identified correctly. So the model has only identified one aspect. So this is also incorrect. We can debate over it. I mean, if you're building a real application, you can debate over it. You can maybe give a weighted rating, weighted average you can do. Maybe you can consider some part, or if you want to consider some part of the answer, you can also do that. Give a kind of a weightage. But that is the reason why the accuracy is coming out to be low. It's still running right now, but it has to get everything right. It has to get the aspects right, and it has to get the sentiments right. It's a harder problem. And what are the ways you can make it better? You can actually write a better system message. You can show it more examples. If you see right now, I'm only showing it 4 few shot examples. Maybe 4 few shot examples is not enough. Yes, the large language model is a very powerful pre-trained model. And we talked about meta learning in the last session. It has a lot of very good zero-shot capabilities. It understands things very well. But maybe still, if you show it some more examples, it will do better. If you have some more exemplars, some more few-shot exemplars, if you can show it, it will still do better. So these are some of the things that you can try out by modifying the prompts. Okay, I will wait for it to run. And this is the part where I will encourage each one of you to also, oh yeah, I think it's now completed. It's now completed. And now let me see the score. You can see 62.5%. Okay, so as I told you, accuracy is very, very low right now.